Tiger. Welcome to No Movies in Hell.
I'm LaClaw Scott, and today we have Sage Young and Kim Rogers of
Head Over Feels.
Head Over Feels.
Yay!
Woo!
Yay.
And we are doing our favorite films of 2022.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
So before we get started, tell us what Head Over Feels is.
Oh, Kim, go for it.
We are heading, is this our 10-year anniversary?
This is our 10 year. We're the only people in the world still blogging, basically.
You know, basically. We started it just as a place to flail and create a safe space for fangirls, and lots of animated GIFs and shipping and glitter. We do a lot with Doctor Who. You know, back when recap culture was a thing, we recapped a lot more shows and stuff, and now we just kind of we're doing a rewatch of the X-Files, and so we're writing about every season of the X-Files as we finish it. And just whenever we have anything that strikes our fancy that we feel that we should put on the internet, we do it.
Yeah, basically. We did some rewatches too over lockdown, which were a lot of fun. We did it was rewatch for some people and not for other people. So we did like a big Lost retrospective. We did The Leftovers, Friday Night Lights. So we're kind of all over the place, mostly covering TV. But yeah, and like Kim said, we do a lot of stuff with Doctor Who. And next month, we're going to be at Gallifrey One, which is the biggest United States Doctor Who convention that's been around for over 30 years now. And so we do some content there. We'll do some moderation, and we have a fan video happy hour, which is really fun. So basically we curate an hour of fan videos for people to come and watch. And we've been doing that for the last few years. And that's probably my favorite part of the whole weekend. But we got into all of this kind of through the blog. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
well, congratulations on your 10-year anniversary.
Wild. Yeah, it'll be 10 years in September.
I think so. Yeah.
Awesome. So today's episode is a special sort of look back at 2022. What were our favorite movies? We'd like to do top 5 and see how far we get. So let's just go around. Sage, what is your number 5?
Okay, my number 5 for this year, because I had 4 down, and then I had a bunch of options for number 5. And I knew I wanted to do something a little bit more fun, crowd pleasing, maybe a little bit lighter than the usual awards fair, because I felt like there were so many great fun popcorn movies that came out this year. And I landed on Fire Island, which came out on Hulu. If you haven't seen it, it is a Pride and Prejudice retelling that happens on Fire Island. Is a largely Asian cast. It's your standard Elizabeth and Darcy, but it's 2 dudes, and it's such a fun movie. And it's really, it's not easy to modernize Austen, as we kind of learned from the Persuasion movie that came out this year, which was travesty. And I mortally offended by how deeply it misunderstands the book. But Fire Island is such a great adaptation, because it sort of takes what makes sense from the book, and then it adapts certain storylines from it, because there are obviously things in Pride and Prejudice that don't really make sense in a modern context. If you were to run off and get a hotel room with somebody, your family wouldn't be destroyed financially for the rest of their lives. That's not a thing that would happen. So you have to sort of modernize it. But the cast is great. It's really funny. It's very romantic, very sexy. And yeah, I just thought it was such a joy, a little gem to come out this year.
Nice. I haven't seen that one, so I'll put it on my
really
list.
cute.
Oh,
yeah.
It's great.
It's good.
Kim, what about you? Do you have a number 5?
I'm going to go in reverse release order.
Okay.
Of course you are.
Because I did not rank my 5, because I personally hate ranking things, because you can ask me on a different day and I'll say something different. So the last one to come out would have been Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. Loved it. I got to go see it in the theaters when it was released for a week, which was great. And there was a Q&A with Ryan Johnson afterwards. I love a big starry ensemble whodunit mystery, Kenneth Branagh is trying to do that with the Hercule Poirot novel movies. They aren't as good, but Rian Johnson really is doing the thing with the Knives Out franchise. I think Daniel Craig is having the time of his life in those movies, free from the shackles of James Bond. Kate Hudson is so good in Glass Onion that it makes me mad that she has terrible taste in projects a lot of time, because when that woman is in the right movie, she's genius. She's genius. Janelle Monáe, a revelation in that movie. And we already knew she was good. We already knew. Edward Norton doing his best Elon Musk, Leslie Odom and Catherine Hahn and Dave Bautista. And it's a great cast. It's so much fun. It genuinely got me with the twists, and great cameos that I won't spoil just in case people haven't seen it yet.
I definitely feel like Catherine Hahn is somebody, when I see her, I think, oh, I want to see more of her. Where can I see more Catherine Hahn?
She's always reliable. Like, she will always turn in a performance, like a good one with a capital P.
She was like the Judy Greer for a long time. Like, she was doing a lot of best friend in rom-com parts, like in the 2000s and the early 2010s. That was so much of her background.
It's like she's aged.
She was with Kate Hudson.
Yeah,
right?
How to Lose a Guy with 10 Days. It's like she's aged into the parts that she always should have been playing to begin with. It's great, and just a great time at the cinema. Glass Onion is.
Now, how did you feel about this one compared to the first one?
I personally feel like you can't compare them, because the only thing that is a link is Daniel Craig, and then you also have I saw a great post on Tumblr about, you now have the Benoit girls versus the Bond girls, and it's always like the Benoit girl is a woman of color who is out to destroy the rich, and so that is a link. I look forward to the third one. I just want him to keep doing these movies. He says he's heavily inspired by Agatha Christie. At the Q&A, he was like, I really want to do like Knives Out version of And Then There Were None, which just would be so great. And just to continue to get just these huge ensemble casts of people that just have a great time, and everyone is hot. What more can you ask for?
Everyone is hot.
Everybody's come back.
All right, LaCroix.
Oh man, this is so hard. I'm probably going to say this like 18 different times. For number 5, I would have to go with Fire of Love. So that was a documentary about 2 volcanologists who, over the course of 30 or 40 years, have studied volcanoes because they felt like they couldn't connect with people. And then they started to really document their processes and like how frequent the volcanoes were happening. And the story is just amazing. Like, watching 2 people at the edge of a volcano like cook food and it's like 1400 degrees, and like playing around and all this other stuff is fascinating. It's very joyful to see people like take these crazy risks and then show you, like, just educate the viewer in how nature works and how they're involved with helping people understand these things, and really, living their life to the fullest, because it was just like, oh, if there's an active volcano happening, they just like get there. And the film footage that they took and what was showed in this in the documentary is like insane. It's like they knew that this was going to be a film. They knew that people are going to watch this, and they made it like really great. It was like really, like, they had like this production eye, but at the same time they were, kind of studying up and getting things ready. So it was like doing their studies, writing the script, getting things out there, like just pushing it to the limit to give us a glimpse of, what is so beautiful about things that we don't understand. But I have a number of different like number 5s, but I think maybe we'll talk about all of our consolation prizes later.
Wow. I've never heard of that. That sounds really cool.
Where can you watch that?
Yeah, I believe it's on streaming now. I definitely saw it at Alamo a couple months ago. I want to say September. But I feel like it's probably, if they haven't put it in for a nomination for Oscars for Best Documentary, they should.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the better documentaries I saw this year.
It's on Disney Plus and Hulu. I just
Oh,
checked
nice.
online.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yes.
I
Yeah, I
it.
believe it was produced by like Nat Geo.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. All right,
that's
Chris,
fascinating.
what
Okay.
is your number 5?
I had also a number of
candidates
for number 5, but it was Babylon.
Ooh.
Interesting.
So I don't know if you guys have seen it yet,
I
but
haven't seen it yet.
okay, so I'll try not to spoil it, but
I'm trying.
amazing, like big picture, like big screen, like necessary to watch this and appreciate, take everything in, because so much is happening all the time. It covers a period of time in movies that I just don't really ever think about, which is like the transition from silent film to movies with sound, and what that does to people, right? Like who are in the industry, and how if you can't transition, you're out of luck. And so we think about how quickly technology is moving now. They felt the same way back then, right? People were feeling left behind. So I thought it was awesome, and really well done. And Margot Robbie, when she is playing kind of that bad girl, is the best. Sage, number 4.
Okay. All right. What's going to be my number 4? All right. I'm going to say that my number 4 is Women Talking by Sarah Polley, which I was thinking about this today in the shower, obviously, where I do all my thinking. And I saw The Whale maybe a couple weeks before that. Did not care for it. But the thing that sort of reminded me that I felt like they were sort of in contrast to each other is that The Whale, which was a play, feels like a play in kind of the worst way on screen. Like it doesn't really feel like it needed to be in this medium. Meanwhile, Women Talking would make a fantastic play, but also it feels extremely cinematic when you're watching it. So it kind of was a more successful version of people sitting in a room talking. The ensemble is really spectacular. There's like an urgency and a propulsiveness to it that I really just got lost in it. I also think maybe it's something about like women directors, but hour 45 minutes, Sarah Polley's like, I know how to tell this story economically, and I'm not dragging this out for any sort of vanity's sake. I'm normally not like a huge Rooney Mara fan, but I thought she in particular was stupendous. LaQuai, you and I talked about that. Jessie Buckley also. I mean, everyone. I love Claire Foy like playing someone angry. That doesn't really happen a lot. So I guess she was in Girl in the Spider's Web, but nobody saw that. It just felt like, to contrast it to another movie, She Said kind of gets mentioned in the same breath as that. And I thought She Said sort of felt like a very kind of false retelling of something that really happened, that to me was just like, okay, here's like the glossy like Hollywood version of this. And Women Talking is like, you really feel like just the fact that these women have taken hold of their ability to make a choice, no matter what that choice may be, is already empowering from the jump. Yeah, I just like a group of spectacular actors just like acting their faces off. I thought it was wonderful. And the way that they there's violence obviously that leads up to what they are going through. It's women who are deciding whether or not, like, this really happened actually in like Bolivia in like 2010 or something. Basically they're being assaulted in it's like a Mennonite community essentially, and they're deciding like whether or not they're going to leave or stay and fight. Like there's a lot of different viewpoints that are represented. There are young women, there are old women, there are middle-aged women, there are childbearing age women, all this stuff. Like it just felt like very full and complete in a way that I was like, She Said was kind of blah.
It was definitely an interesting movie, and I'm so glad I got to see it in the theater as well.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
Because
I think it's coming back out in the theater too.
It's still in theaters because I'm gonna go try and see it this week.
I'm really bummed that that Sarah Polley isn't getting more attention. She won the adapted screenplay award at Critics' Choice last night, but the fact that she's being left out of the director conversation is so frustrating.
Yeah.
Kim, what about you?
Continuing in reverse release order, we have The Menu, which is delightful. It was kind of, I just watched it like a week and a half ago, and I really haven't stopped thinking about it since, which is why it made my list. We have another great ensemble movie led by an actor who usually does very dramatic, very heavy work. And in this, Ralph Fiennes is having a great time being this like menacing chef. I also have a sister that works in food and wine. And so like I extra enjoyed like how it skewered the culture to where like 20 minutes in, I texted her and I was like, have you watched the menu yet? And she was like, I haven't. And I was like, please tell me when you do, because I really want to know like what you think of it. Nicholas Hoult playing a great douchebag.
He always does.
You know, he's really good at
He's
it.
so good at it.
And then Anya Taylor-Joy doing her Anya Taylor-Joy thing. Like, she has a very specific vibe and she does it every time. And you know what? It works every time. So more power to her. And then Hong Chow steals the movie as the hostess with the mostess. I just think it's such a creative spin on like the horror genre to where it's even more of just like a social commentary versus a horror movie. I mean, there's obvious gore and horror in it, but it does more than that. And I had a great time, which is what you should do at the movies. Like, I'm always just like, did I have a great time? Yes.
The movie's great.
It's great. The art direction with all of the food, just like, it nails it. Every little aspect nails it. I
mean, Succession's Mark Mylod knows how to shoot some rich people stuff.
Yeah.
Look, wow. What about you? Number 4.
Number 4. Let's see. I have RRR. Heard about it word of mouth. In the spring, Alamo had, I think it was like in March, Alamo had a day where they were showing the film. And heard about it, went to go see it. It was like, didn't really think of anything, just like, okay, whatever. And completely blew my mind. The sad part was this showing did not have the break, I guess the 15-minute break in between the film, because it's 3 hours long. So it was just like sitting there for 3 hours long.
Wow.
I knew that going in, so I made sure that I was in seat so I didn't miss anything. But an epic story just blew me out of the water. Like, it's everything. They just got everything in there. They got the music, the song Natu Natu is winning all these awards. I think it won a Critics' Choice Award last night. It won a Golden Globe. So I think it's on the path for winning Best Original Song, hopefully for the Academy Awards. The storytelling is insane. I love all of the crazy special effects. You know, animals are jumping in and in this war, and they don't know who to like attack, which I think is really, really funny. It just really took me out of the bubble that I feel like, especially with like Marvel films and all these other action films, and like brought it in where you see this aspect of like just a different type of filmmaking and a different type of film experience. And you have, your action, you have your comedy, you have your romance, and then you have your musical. And I think that's very classic Hollywood of like, hey, this is how it was, back in the day. And it's like, just this film just brought it back. And I still, it's one of those things I run on background now, because 3 hours to dedicate to watch a movie is a lot. But I definitely am rooting for it this award season, and I really feel like it's just really good filmmaking. So
I love that the song is beating all of these songs from pop stars, because it's beating Rihanna, it is beating Taylor Swift, it's beating Gaga. I'm sure it'll beat Diane Warren again. So I think that's awesome when it's like a genuine music. I haven't seen it, but from what I've heard, that it's like a genuine music moment in the movie, as opposed to a song being played in the closing credits, which is what usually happens with original songs. So I'm always in support of that.
Yeah. Sorry guys, you're gonna have to try next year. Taylor, Rihanna,
Gaga's got her.
Gaga's got one. She's fine.
Yeah.
Chris?
My number 4 is the worst person in the world.
Oh,
This was kind of a, it was quiet release. It didn't like blow up everywhere, but it was definitely visible. Like you could see it in multiple theaters, right? It's enough screen time that a lot of people did end up seeing it. I like the guy that this is by. I went to see like other things after I saw this that he has also done. Very similar look and feel. Awesome. Like it's a simple story, slice of life. Things happen though. So, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I will also try not to spoil, but it's great. It's quiet, but effective. Sage, number
Good
3.
things about it. Ooh, all right. Okay. My number 3, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, which I watched on a plane, which was a mistake because the guy next to me certainly thought that I was like going through some sort of, he probably thought somebody had died. I mean, I don't know. I was really just kind of weeping. It is a beautiful movie. Like I can't even, it's so poignant. It's the warmest movie that I've seen this year. It's so disarming. The animation is spectacular. The character design is so friggin' cool. Like you could just pause some of these scenes and just look and see what they created all these other little like shell people out of. Talk about taking something that was just a concept and really turning it into this really fully formed story with this really just like beloved. I mean, how can you not love Marcel? Like this central character, and then it somehow avoids being too saccharine. I think because that character, and especially the way that Jenny Slate plays him, is very kind of like mischievous and can be sarcastic and kind of like archly funny. So you're not like, oh, this poor little guy is like so helpless. Like he is, but he's also not. I'm just down in general on the fact that we don't really have that many voice actors anymore that work in movies, that it's really just like we're casting famous people. The performance particularly that Isabella Rossellini brings to this movie, like I think she should be nominated for an Oscar for playing Grandma Connie. Like I just truly think that she should be nominated for an Oscar, even though it's not going to happen. It's so special and it's so singular. It's like I don't know that I can't imagine any other film achieving that exact tone that they were able to achieve. And I can't wait to watch it again.
It was awesome, for sure.
So cute. So cute.
it's a good one.
What about you, Kim? What's next?
We're now in September 2022, and we are going to go with The Banshees of Inisherin, which I know Sage is going to shout out later as well. So I'm going to try to steer out of her lane. I adore Martin McDonagh. I have done his plays before in college. I actually did one of the Inish plays because this actually completes the trilogy of his Inish plays that it was supposed to be done on stage and then just never happened. And so now it's materialized as a movie. I think his dialogue is just a melody every time. It is just so melodic because of the Irish, but just also because of his like innate understanding of language. The performances, you have the reunion of Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson. They are magical. Carrie Condon just like delivers like one hell of a performance as like the only woman in the movie, which is just it's a very McDonagh thing that he usually just has, one or two women, unfortunately, but they're always just like amazing women. So it's great. I feel like any other year she'd probably be running the table with supporting actress because it's just that good and you can't take your eyes off her. It is beautifully filmed. The cinematography is gorgeous. It just made me like have lots of thoughts. Like if I woke up one day and like Sage was like, I don't ever want to talk to you again. Like, and for no good reason, like what would happen? And like that's what this movie is. And it's wonderful. I loved it.
I saw a tweet about it. I think I retweeted it. Somebody said like The Banshees of Inisherin is about the terrifying question of what if someone was mad at you? Which is so good.
I think we're getting into this territory where we're all probably gonna have similar films.
Crossover.
Lots of crossover action. My third, was Banshees of Inisherin. I went into this not knowing much, but having seen, I think before this film, we definitely saw The Hangman on Broadway. Very familiar with Martin McDonagh's work. I was delighted, even though it's a very heavy subject of losing friendship and different types of friends too, because, and this is going to sound terrible, I'm not very big Colin Farrell fan, but he really did it for me this year. After Yang was a great film. This film was amazing. He wasn't, he wasn't just like the hot guy. He was the dumb guy. And and he really stepped it up with the little, like his little face and like, why aren't we friends anymore? And you just like felt for him. And then you also felt for Colum. Like you felt for Brendan Gleeson's character of like, I want to do something. I want to have an impact in this world. And I can't waste my time with someone who just doesn't get it. And it's hard to separate and kind of like think about that and then just get really, really serious about it. And I often think about with New Year's, you have those commitments of like, oh, I'm going to do more and I'm going to be more and I'm going to stick to my plan and I'm going to really hunker down and like work and focus on this. And I feel like this film was very much like that. Like, okay, one day I'm going to wake up, there's something I want to aspire to do, and I'm not going to let that get in my way. And anything that's going to get in my way, I'm going to make sure that there's a clear path for me to like do it. And it just has the consequences all over the place. And it's just it's so good. It was, for me, it was a slow burn because we saw it and I liked it. And then I came back to thinking about it and I came back to thinking about it again. And I just really enjoy it. And I think that I'm probably going to revisit it again, probably before in the next like couple weeks. Yep. Chris, what about you?
So we are going to start overlapping because my number 3 is RRR. There's not much more to say about it, but I thought it was awesome. And I didn't, LaCroix had recommended it to me. She said, I just saw this movie. It was only showing for one night. I don't know where you're going to see it, but you should see it. And so going in cold, it was amazing. Like in the first 5 minutes, you're just like, what am I watching? Like, this is insane. Like, it's as if you gave a focus group to like 5-year-olds and you said, if you had a giant fight, who would be in it? And they said like a tiger and 3 people, like, and the director was like, yes, that's a good idea. Let's do that. And the whole movie, you're just like, what's happening right now? Like, this is amazing. And I've not ever seen this done before.
Tar for my number 2, which, full disclosure, I just watched yesterday because I knew, and I literally left the spot on my list because I was like, I know it's going to be on there by the time I finally watched it, and I was not disappointed. Just sort of the base layer is that, did any of you watch Mozart in the Jungle?
Yes.
Oh, the show. Oh my God. Like I adore that show. I'm still so sad that it got canceled, but I thought that I've kind of been interested in the whole, like the last season of that show. A lot of it is about how difficult it is to become a conductor as a woman and to like get a placement and to be respected and all that sort of stuff. I thought all of that was really interesting to begin with as like my base level, and also just wanting to see Cate Blanchett just like do the damn thing and play one of the least likable characters I've ever watched a film about. She does so like so unsparingly. And I was reading a little bit about it yesterday and how some people were like, oh, this is sort of like the anti-cancel culture movie or something like that. And I was like, I don't even think it's making any sort of statement about that at all. It's really just like about this particular person and about how people tell you often enough that you're special and once in a lifetime and here's all this power and you can do whatever you want with it. You know, what is going to happen with that, especially if you're somebody who kind of wants to forget where they came from, or you know, you weren't necessarily happy with your beginnings. So I also liked, which I wasn't really expecting going into it, I didn't really know that it was there, was that there are these sort of little bits of psychological horror in it. Like there are some things that happen in Tar that are just like her kind of breakdown, or the things that she has done are catching up to her and haunting her in a way. And they're not even really remarked upon in the movie. They're just sort of there, which I felt made the whole her whole unraveling felt a lot more real, because it wasn't like, oh, hey, look at that thing over there, look at that thing over there. And the score is really cool. All of the conducting scenes are really awesome. Mark Strong in a wig. I love Mark Strong in a wig. There's one scene in it where she, I won't tell people what happened, but she like confronts this girl on the schoolyard who's been kind of harassing, like bullying her daughter. And I was so shocked by it that I like sat up in my chair. It's just like so many insane things happen in that movie. And there's a lot of times there aren't any consequences for it. And so it's just like, if you kind of go through the world and just do whatever you want, like sometimes you're going to get caught and sometimes you're not. But yeah, I'm really torn. We were talking about this last night, the two of us, because it's like the Kate or the Michelle Yeoh of it all. It's these two performances are both so great and they're so different. And I think it's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen at the Oscars. I truly don't. Mm-hmm. Or what I want to happen. I don't know.
Terrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
But how great to have like this kind of discussion versus like,
we love it.
Yeah,
it's so much more fun when you don't know.
Exactly. And that it's two like incredibly dynamic performances, that it's, you know, just,
and older women.
Yes.
Yeah,
we do love that.
Playing like really cool, playing not
mothers. Well,
they're both mothers, but like that's not
more to it.
There's so much more to it. It's not what you would normally assume that kind of role would be.
All right, Kim, what are we up to now?
We're in June 2022.
Oh yeah. Oh, those are me.
I am a lifelong Baz Luhrmann apologist / stan, so I am saying Elvis. I was not expecting to like Elvis. That first trailer was so bad. And I was like, I mean, I'm going to go see it because like Baz Luhrmann has owned me since 1996 with Romeo and Juliet. Like it's, you know, and Moulin Rouge is like consistently in my top 5 movies of all time. I even enjoyed Australia. Like, so I feel like there's no other living director other than John Carney, who did Once and Sing Street and Begin Again, that understands like the connection of music and humanity like Baz Luhrmann does. And there's just something that he really gets in it. And like, there's a section in the movie where he starts sampling modern boy bands in like a montage, and you're just like because it's the same kind of fervor and frenzy that like I feel when I scream at a Backstreet Boys concert, like that these girls felt when they were seeing Elvis for the first time. I thought Austin Butler was extraordinary. Whether or not he is continuing to keep the Elvis voice because he's like possessed by Elvis's ghost or something, like that's a little tiresome, sure, but I'm like, he left his whole ass on that screen, you know, like he gave everything he could. And when he was announced as being cast, it was very like, who? And then I left the movie just being like, this kid delivered extraordinary. Tom Hanks's performance is weird. There's too much of it. Like, it's not a perfect movie, but I left the movie theater like enthralled. And I've never been that interested in Elvis, so it wasn't even that. It was just the way Baz chose to tell the story and how I could see it mirroring in today's pop stars of like what happened with Elvis and everything like that. So I loved it. I won't apologize for it. Baz's movies are all very, very much. It's a lot of muchness, from the costumes to the production design to the editing to the sound to everything, and it was just enough much for me.
No need to apologize.
Yeah. No, he does it. He brings it.
Yeah.
He brings it, and then he never gets it's like, do these movies direct themselves, to quote Whoopi Goldberg at the Oscars with Moulin Rouge when she was like, apparently it directed itself. Like he has a style. He, we talk about all these like different auteurs or whatever, and like Baz never gets named in it, and he has a vision.
100%.
It's a singular style, and I love it. And some people don't, and that's fine. That they can be wrong. It's great.
Tom Hanks was interesting because he doesn't play bad guys very often.
Yeah.
And the Colonel in real life is definitely not a great guy.
No.
I mean, I think they even like kind of glossed over it in the movie a little bit, but not a nice guy.
Yeah.
But the like end scene, like if you weren't in it by then, like that would take you there. Like it's got you.
It's just, I mean, he knows. It's like when Ewan McGregor opens his mouth to sing for the first time in Moulin Rouge, where the whole movie stops.
And all the lights come in Paris. Like, come on.
Or when Romeo sees Juliet through the aquarium. Like, he has all of these moments in the movies where it's like time stops and the suspense, and so I dig it. I love it. It is catered to me and my tastes. And I will always go see a Baz movie, even if it's divisive.
That Britney Toxic remix.
Yes, which they finally released. It's finally like on Spotify.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, LaCroix, what do you got? Number 2.
Oh, man. Okay, so number 2 is Nope. Jordan Peele, Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer. She did it. This is the movie. I don't think she's going to get nominated for it, but I mean, it's everything. Stephen Yeun, amazing. This was the movie I like waited on. I think we even did a prediction episode of like what we thought this film was going to be. And actually like it actually had some numbers. But when this came out, we went to Lincoln Center to see it. The Q&A was with Jordan Peele and Keke Palmer. It was amazing. I am a huge fan of his back when he was like writing on Mad TV, and then like the first season of Key and Peele show came out, and the double entendres, the everything in this film was so good. I'm from California. I resonated very much with this film in terms of it's almost like even though this was in a small town California, the very LA culture of you're almost like one-upping people when you talk about things. You're always talking about a spectacle. Oh my gosh, I sat in so much traffic for this long. And then it's like, please do tell me more. And you feed this machine. This film about, not even an alien, an unidentified object is a spectacle in itself. People are drawn to it, and it becomes the downfall for everyone involved. The wanting to be relevant for telling stories about childhood, the child actor retelling a like horrifically tragic story and then adding in the SNL sketch. It's so good. It's just genius, and it's insane. And the horror for me was in a different way. It was very psychological, and it was through a new medium, which was sound for me. So the sound in this film was incredible, and it's absolutely terrifying. And I think I talked about it in the horror film episode, but like the sounds, the popping, the noises, this was everything that I thought and more. I did have the plot off by a little bit in terms of predictions, but I was very surprised and very happy with this film. I think I'm actually going to get it on physical media, because in the way that digital media is going now, these days,
invest.
Like, best to have that physical copy of everything. Chris, what was your second film of the year? Your runner-up.
I thought that you were going to pick Nope for your number 1. So that was my, if I were making LaCroix's list, I thought you would have picked Nope for number 1. My number 1 and number 2 are really tied for number 1. They're so different from each other that I couldn't put one above it because I couldn't compare them. But I'm going to say number 2 is Banshees. Like all the things you said. Love Martin McDonagh from like way back, just seeing his old movies, but even his plays, Behanding in Spokane. It's fun to watch his plays because you can see him workshopping different concepts that you see later in movies. And it's fun to be part of that journey. Yeah, Banshees was amazing. It was different. It was one of those movies that you think about over and over and over and over. And, you know, you can definitely identify with various aspects of each character. Even Barry, like his character was so great and just funny, but also not. Like he's so genuine in it. Even the old woman, like who like just magically appears wherever. you know people like that, and you can definitely envision like the woman who's the town gossip who works at the store, and just how people in small towns interact with each other. You know, you might not like everyone, but you know everyone, and you're going to see them tomorrow, so you better just get along with them, because even if you don't want to spend a ton of time with them, you can't avoid them. The priest was great, and no one's nice all the time, right? Like everyone has their sort of darkness. Just awesome. Sage, what about your number one?
We'll see. Yeah. So by process of elimination, you probably know that Banshees is my number one. Yeah, everything everybody said. I mean, In Bruges is one of my favorite movies ever. And it just the combination, I like the rest of you, I'm a McDonough stan, but also just that pairing of Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson is just like magical. Like that's just whatever they found in that. He should just keep writing things for them forever. Just trying to think of something new to say that you guys haven't said already. But I think it's a movie too, not just about the dissolution of a friendship, but it's a movie about like loneliness, and it's a movie about choosing loneliness to some degree. And I appreciate that McDonough never really has the inclination to wrap things up in a nice way and kind of send you off, hopefully. It's a little bit more realistic than that. And yeah, I thought Colin Farrell is just so heartbreaking in that part, and you can tell that he really just like deeply feels it. Like when he looks at the calendar and smiles because he thinks he's figured it out, it's like I felt like I was shocked. It was the most heartbreaking thing. And then to have the sort of like McDonough left hand crazy turn, which obviously happens with the when they start to sort of one up each other, and this becomes not just the dissolution of a friendship, but like an all-out war. It felt so, it's in line with all of his other work, but it felt really unique to me and really special. And it felt like one of those movies where you could tell how deeply everybody who worked on it cared about what they were doing. Like it just feels like a deeply considered, deeply felt movie. It is funny, but it's funny to me that it is being called a comedy and being nominated because people who see it after that are probably like shocked by what occurs, and I hope they're okay. Yeah, I'm rooting for Colin in that Oscar. I really want it to happen because I want the speech. He's good at the speeches. All Irish people are.
And he's just always been around delivering quality work. I mean, he's another, and he kind of got beat up in the tabloids for
being
so
hot.
Bad. For being hot.
Is it a crime to be hot and date Britney Spears and have a sex tape? No, it's not a crime.
He was just treated like we treated the Britneys and the Parises and the Lindsay Lohans and all, in the early aughts, and just to see him hanging in there and still delivering the goods.
There's a really good Twitter thread that I saw going around, but I think I actually saw it on Tumblr. But basically somebody had told a sort of heartwarming story about like running into Colin Farrell, and then it just became all of these stories that people were sharing of like encounters that they had with him, and they're all really funny. But the one I remember of somebody said that they were an extra on Phone Booth, the iconic Joel Schumacher phone booth, 2003, I think. And they said that they were picked out of, they were a background performer, but they were picked to be this police officer who was like yelling things at him. And so he's like, so for a whole day, I'm just like screaming obscenities at Colin Farrell. He's never met me before. The guy said that like every few takes, he's like sitting on the ground. He'd be like, "You did a great job." He would just tell him along the way. Or somebody else said like they ran into him in their small town and they were like, why are you here? And he was like, why that? Like a very delightful man, a man of the people, which is again very Irish.
And finally, we go to May 2020, and I don't care if it makes me basic, but Top Gun Maverick, you guys, was a great time at the cinema, and it was also far better than it had any right to be. And that is possibly why it's making my list, just because I was so surprised by how much I liked it. Because I watched the original, obviously, like the weekend before it got released, because it got put on streaming. And and again, like I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 1978. And so like Tom Cruise in Top Gun, like, I mean, my college roommate had a poster of him in the jet with the thumbs up and the flight suit, like. And but Top Gun the movie, like the script is like thin as a piece of paper, and it is really just like a movie about aesthetics and homoeroticism. And so I didn't expect it to have the kind of like heft that it did, Top Gun Maverick, with kind of like passing the torch, and then like the really touching scene with Maverick and Iceman. Like it just, it was, again, I'm always just like, I had a great time. I saw it Memorial Day weekend. Like it felt very return to form for the movies after just like the horribleness of the past 2.5 years of just like really creating an event movie that brought adults to the movie theaters, that was not a Marvel movie. And is it a franchise? Is it not? I mean, it's the nostalgia factor, and it's a sequel, but it felt like an event for grown-ups to go see and to like feel that nostalgia for, when you hear Danger Zone and you hear that theme. And we saw it in like the Dolby Theater in Times Square, and so like we felt the the planes in our seats. Like you really felt it. And like the flying was amazing, like the stunts were fantastic, the cinematography and capturing it was all just like supremely well made. It saved the movies this year, honestly, as far as like the theaters and stuff, like bringing people to the theater and getting that culture another like goose, pun intended.
Hey.
The first $1 billion movie of 2022,
right? And I keep being a little like shocked at first that it's in the conversation for getting nominated for Best Picture, but it is kind of just like, you have to recognize its contribution to the year in movies. Like, do I want it to win? Absolutely not. I think it would be kind of like, really, guys? But like, it was an achievement, and it was a well-made movie, and we love to see those.
Absolutely. It was on my list. Like it was one of the contenders for 5th place. So yeah. If you're basic, so am I.
Yeah. I was just like, there's nothing wrong with being basic, because like things are basic for a reason. I love a popcorn movie. I was raised on Steven Spielberg. So like, I love this kind of movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Shout out to the Fablemans. Honorable mention.
LaCroix, what do you got?
All right. Well, down to the last drop. I think, Chris, we probably have the same film. So I'll try to keep this short. But when I heard about this film, obviously I'm a fan of the directors. First, the Turn Down for What video, which really kicked it off. And then Swiss Army Man. We saw that in theaters. I think, Sage, were you with us?
I've never seen it.
Oh my God. Okay. Your brother was...
He was probably there, I'm sure.
So and I had no idea what it was. It was Daniel Radcliffe, Paul Dano. I thought it was just this weird, crazy film about a man who's like a Swiss Army knife, and like this whole kind of genteel like fantasy land. And then I think we actually like got as part of a like marketing research study, got an invite to see this film in Lincoln Center, and then had to like fill out a survey afterward, and it was like, kind of the pre-work was like all these different genres of films. I'm like, I just don't know what we're about to see, but like, okay, it's by the Daniels. I think it's gonna be cool. in the middle of the film, just looking at Nate like, oh my, like, how can this get any better? And it just kept on going and kept on going. At the end of the film, we're looking at each other and like we're sitting, and I think I look over and I see this guy put his head in his hands, like in his seat, like, what did I just see? And then we're like filling out the survey, and I leave, and we're like talking about it the whole weekend. And like Michelle Yeoh, and we watch a lot of repertoire films, and the amazing comeback of Ki Hu Kwan. I'm probably butchering his name. I apologize. Just amazing. And Jamie Lee Curtis as kind of like, I don't know, she's kind of like, whatever, like just like background character, but kind of like the mean IRS woman. And just everybody completely transforms. Like everybody has like so many different roles in this film, and just the everyday mundane turning into this fantastical world, turning into like multiple fantastical worlds, and telling this crazy story in such a just a brilliant way. Like I want films to be like this in the future. Like there's so much learning, and it makes it enjoyable to go to the movies and sit in the theater with everybody and have like such a great experience. My number one is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Same. That's my number one. What I liked about it too is that they were all sort of unconventional picks to lead a movie. Michelle is, of course, a star, but she almost always plays these very high status characters. She's an expert martial artist. She's she's like the wise person that you come to consult with. In every movie, she is very high status. And in this movie, she is exceptionally low status. Jamie Lee Curtis, same, right? She's very high status in almost all of her roles. In this, again, very low status. So it was interesting to see like this movie about these very powerful women in these very low status roles, and they're amazing, and the story is amazing. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. Not much more to say.
It was my sixth slot. Like Sage and I were talking last night, and I was like I'm just gonna go in with 6. Like I don't care about their structure. I'm going in with 6. Because I had just watched it. I just watched it on Friday. And yeah, exactly like what you guys said, and just like Michelle Yeoh is just extraordinary, and Ke Huy Quan is just like, I'm like, oh my god, Short Round, like look at you, like he's so good for going from like meek to like stud to action hero, that you're just like, wow. And the daughter is really good too. Like it's such a great ensemble. Definitely. And it's creative, and like you said, LaCroix, I would love to see more movies that take chances like that one does.
It made me think too of back to like Endgame and stuff, and when like the Russos were asked these questions about like, well, how did Steve get the guy? And they were like, oh, I don't know, I don't care. Like it's like they made a movie about the multiverse, and they just like didn't even think about it. And it's like this movie had a fraction of the budget and the resources that you guys had, and it's still a smarter movie about the multiverse that actually, like, if you go through it, there really aren't that many plot holes. There certainly aren't as many as there are in that Avengers arc. But yeah, it's like maybe like fully consider what you're doing.
And the scene with the rocks, where they're rocks,
the
like
rocks.
You made rocks devastating.
Yeah.
Like, and when it's like all of a sudden you realize that this is a movie about like generational trauma and mothers and daughters, and you kind of sit up in the middle of it and you're like, oh damn.
For sure. Do you guys have any honorable mentions you want to throw out there?
I was thinking about this one. This is kind of a small movie, but I was just really blown away by it in a lot of ways. Did anybody watch The Wonder on Netflix with Florence Pugh? I mean, I love a Florence Pugh joint, and I love me some like weird religious stuff. So And I didn't really know what to expect from that movie, especially when you start to watch it and there's like that framing device, which is like, whoa, like what is going on? But it is kind of bleak in a very appealing way. And I wish it had gotten some more attention, but I think it's well worth a watch if you want to watch something that is kind of a thriller, kind of a mystery, but also very grounded. And she is, you know, typically spectacular in it.
Agreed. It was great.
Yeah.
I have a few.
Yeah, say them.
So small film, wasn't out very long, but Petite Maman.
Mhm.
It is a
That's a
sci-fi.
Feliciana one? Or no?
It's a French film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a sci-fi drama that's like surprisingly like sweet and cute, and I thought that it was really well done. Another one, Bones and All, I thought it was up there. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris was another one I really liked. Surprisingly, Leslie Mansfield. I really enjoyed the story. I love this, like, you know, older women like figuring out what they want to do. And even though there's obstacles and challenges, like she's still, you know, trying to get to Paris, trying to get her Dior couture dress, like encountering like the worst, you know, I guess attitudes and also situations. And it's like my like adult Paddington Bear. It's like like she's like overcoming obstacles with a smile on her face and like still like working things out in her favor, and it's really inspiring. And The Woman King was also on my list as well for some hot contenders. That was really, really good.
I'm dying for it to get on streaming
know,
so I
it's
can
like
finally
not
see
yet.
it. I'm like, what is the lag on this one? I need it. It opened in the fall. Like, it should be on streaming by now. It's not. It's annoying.
It should be.
I'm gonna go a little lowbrow in an honorable mention, but a shout out to the Netflix movie Do Revenge, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
it just, you know, skewering lampooning, but all of the Easter eggs to like every teen comedy that is out there. And it was just an enjoyable Saturday afternoon on the couch, stylishly done. Everyone is fashionable. Maya Hawke and her continued committedness to playing queer girls for Netflix is great. Camila Mendes, I'm like, free her from Riverdale. Like,
She's almost done. She's almost
done.
One more season.
I'm ready to see what she is capable of outside of that show, because I thought she really carried that movie and was very compelling to watch. And it's a great Saturday afternoon movie.
I hadn't watched Barbarian by the time we did the horror episode, but Barbarian slaps. It was so fun. I probably the most fun I've had watching any sort of horror movie in the last year. And I was just continually surprised. Everything that happened, I could not have guessed. I loved how it took your expectations and like turned them on their head, especially, you know, with how the movie starts. And I was so glad I didn't know anything going into it. And I just love like a really playful, bold, low budget horror movie with great performances too. Like everybody's great, particularly Justin Long, just absolutely chewing scenery and killing it. And I love that guy. So that was great.
And the other one, Justin Long, is so great.
He's so great. I also love that he is like, what's her face? Who's he dating now? What's her name?
Oh, Kate
Blue
Bosworth?
Crush. Yeah, they're so cute.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like
I did
in
not
love, in
know
love.
that.
Oh yeah, look on his
Really?
Instagram. He posted like the cutest thing for her 40th birthday. I was like, oh, you guys are so like, it's like a 2000s power couple. I really love it.
It really is.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
Adorable. And then the other one I want to mention was the Matilda adaptation that dropped on Netflix, which I love. I mean, I loved that book as a kid. I love the original movie. I love the Broadway musical. Just the catchiest score and really fun and sort of just a great depiction of children and childhood as not just as something that's a little bit like wild and untamable. And they did an amazing job. I mean, it was the same director as the musical who adapted it for the screen. And there was that, I mean, the musical sequences are amazing. There was that clip from Revolting Children that went viral because just like the kids go so hard, and people were setting it to like Missy Elliott songs and stuff. It's like, and it's that way for pretty much the entire movie. So if you want a musical that's like, I don't know, I don't think I would recommend it to people who don't like musicals, but if you want something that has a little bit more edge to it than you might have thought. And I was watching it at my parents' house over the holidays, and they're not like huge musical people, but they both kind of like sat down in the process of it and like watched the whole thing with me. At the end, they were like, "Oh, that's pretty good." So that's kind of high praise. Yeah, but I was really happy with it, and I love that story, and I love that there are now so many good versions of it. Like there aren't any bad ones. Mm-hmm. They all slap.
I'm gonna mention one. Wakanda Forever.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that. I'm not a huge Marvel fan. Like LaQual will tell you, I probably hadn't watched any Marvel movies before the pandemic. But
wow,
I feel like it just did everything, right? First of all, the costumes for that, amazing. The various types of costumes that they need to create for each different type of person and where they were in the world. Amazing. The plot was much more elaborate than I thought it would be going in, and I certainly didn't expect it to be for a Marvel movie. I just thought they did things exceptionally well, and if you're looking for summer entertainment, like that's a great summer entertainment movie. It delivers.
It is really good. So many good films this year.
I know.
I know, and I feel like I briefly shouted out the Fablemans, but I would like to shout out the Fablemans a little bit more again. For Steven Spielberg is part of the reason I love movies so much, and so to see something that he poured so much of himself and his love for the genre, and like you see like all the seedlings of all of his blockbusters in it through, you know, this child making movies just for the love of making movies. And Michelle Williams just always so good, and I love that she was like, no, I will be in leading actress, not supporting actress, because you know that they were gonna market her as supporting actress and she would have walked away with the award, but she was like, no, I am a lead. And I love that for her. Seth Rogen always turns in great performances. Little baby Spielberg is so good. Paul Dano's great. Judd Hirsch. You know, it's a movie to me that plays really well on streaming in a way, and I'm eager for it to get to streaming so I can watch it again, because like there's such a deliberate nature to it, and it's very like contemplative, and to where to me there were some sections that played a little slow in the movie theater, but I feel like would play really well at home on my couch, you know, that it would give me a new appreciation for it. And I always just like seeing Spielberg on the award circuit. I like seeing John Williams at 90 showing up at these things. The serendipity of Ke Huy Quan and Steven Spielberg being on the circuit at the same time, like I'm never gonna get over Steven beaming at him at the Golden Globes. Like it's just very special, and it's a special movie, and I feel like it may win Best Picture. It'd be a very safe option for Best Picture. Whether or not, you know, it just depends on like where is the Academy going to go? Are they going to go bold, or are they going to go safe? And like you can't get safer than a movie from Steven Spielberg about the art of making movies. So, but at least it's well done. It's, you know, because sometimes those can lean towards self-indulgent, and this one never felt self-indulgent to me. So that's just my little plug for the Fablemans.
Nice. All right. Well, we're going to wrap up. This is the opportunity for Sage and Kim, if you guys want to plug anything coming up on Head Over Heels.
Yeah, so we're at headerfeels.com. As Kim said, we are in the midst of our very emotional X-Files rewatch because we are both children of that show. So that's been a lot of fun. We do have an annual poll that we do every year. I don't know exactly when it's going to come out this year, but stealing a phrase from the show Community, it is the most handsome young man of the year. And so we have usually 6 nominees of like guys in the industry who are just killing it. Last year it was Andrew Garfield. The year before we didn't do it because we were like, there's a pandemic and no one's doing anything. But Lin-Manuel Miranda's won it. Harry Styles has won it.
Keanu Reeves. He was
John
our
Cho.
Yeah, he was our handsome young man for like 2 years
For 2
because
years.
we skipped 2020, but it
Yeah.
felt like Keanu was a
Keanu
good one
deserves-
to
Keanu
guide
deserves
us.
years.
I mean, Andrew Garfield has just been serving like he has known that he's most handsome young
Yeah.
man. And
Every time he's on a carpet, I'm like, he knows. That's
he
why
knows.
he's posing like that.
I mean, so yeah,
So
that
that's
is
a lot
probably
of
coming up.
fun. Yeah, we'll come and vote for that. We'll share that.
And when we say most handsome young man, again, like age is not a determinant in it. We inevitably
No.
always get a man
being
being like, why are you nominating Ted Danson? And we're like, because he's handsome and he's a national treasure.
Ted Danson is a handsome young man. I'm sorry.
Like,
That's
please,
true.
he's got handsome young man energy. It's about the energy and the vibe as much as the look. And we also love hot dads. So that should be that way all the time.
I'm here for it.
Again, it's just a title. And yes, if anybody is going to be randomly at the Doctor Who convention next month in LA, we will be there. Come say hi. And come to
Awesome.
Fan Video Happy Hour.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.